Hello everybody, Terrible Shoes back at it again, and for today's video I'm actually doing something a little differently than I normally do. Today I'm actually going to be reviewing the Nintendo Switch 2, the console itself, and I'm going to be real here. I'm reviewing this as a relatively regular guy that doesn't throw 60 plus hours a week down on games, has a job that does consume a lot of my time, and also has a lot of things family-wise I have to take care of. So I'm sure if you're coming here to just have me mindlessly say this is the worst console I've ever seen, you're in the wrong spot. I'm really sorry. I'm just preluding that. So I do want to cover a few fair points about the system today. It's going to be a very short review, but it's going to be very honest, and I'm going to have it try to get something that comes from the perspective of what, in my opinion, the working man, so to say, not someone whose job is to literally tear apart these systems and tell you how awful they are for 10 videos in a row. I don't know. I know that sounds a little harsh, but like I feel like that's all you ever see anymore on YouTube. And even when I was searching for information on the system, I couldn't find anything that I felt was particularly accurate, if that makes any sense. I feel like it's all played up for views, and it's just really sad and incorrect opinions a lot of the time, because I feel like everything just feels very manufactured coming from these creators. But I've rambled too long. Let's get to the main points of my review for the Nintendo Switch 2. But before that, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, helps me out a ton. I'm going to be covering 4 points: the actual system itself, the games for the system that I own currently, the future of the system, at least my opinion of it, and because we are a Pokemon channel, we're going to be talking about the current state of Pokemon on the console too, and like what I feel about that. So let's get started right away. Point number 1, we're going to go right into it with the system itself. The system, I'm going to be real, the specs of the system are great for the price. Everyone is complaining that this costs $450 in the US, and that is usually due to import costs and such. It costs a lot less over in Japan. And I'm going to be honest with you though, for $450, especially compared to what other consoles cost on the market today, and with the price increases coming to the 2 competing consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, I think $450 for a console is great with specs like the Switch 2's. It's well, now am I going to say that the Switch 2's specs are absolutely amazing and blow me away? No. The Switch 2 is pretty much the equivalent, in my opinion, to a Series S, which I also own. And I'm going to be real here, this is going to upset a lot of people too. I own my Series S strictly for Game Pass, because it's a cheap and easy way to play the first-party titles on the Xbox that I like Gears of War and such, for cheap. So system-wise, the Switch 2, in my opinion, is just fine. It's nothing special, it's nothing over the top, but it's not anywhere near as bad as some content creator that's screaming in your face, or some weirdo on Twitter is going to try to convince you it is. So that way you just won't buy it for some reason. I feel like a lot of the guys who say this are people who worked with Nintendo in the past and just didn't really get it their way, or they're people that they know that their audience absolutely hates Nintendo, so they feel the need to just play up how much they dislike parts of the Switch 2. It's very annoying, and it's very disingenuous in my opinion. So the system itself, spec-wise, is fine. It's not great. I'm gonna be real, it's not great, it's not bad, it's fine. And also, if I remember correctly, the Series S is having a price increase that will place it very similarly to the Switch 2, price-wise. I think a little more, actually. I think it's going to be around $500. So I don't understand why people are not complaining about the price increase for that system, but they are complaining about the price for the Switch 2 at launch. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it always seems to come from people who claim to love video games but don't actually love video games. They just love to argue about them. That's really my perspective on the first point. Point number 2, let's go right into the games. In the Switch 2's current state, I am going to be completely and utterly honest. The lineup of games is not that impressive. Yes, I'm being very real here. I own 3 games myself. Mario Kart World. Now, yeah, sue me, $80 game. It came with my console. I don't give a shit. I own Street Fighter 6, and I also own, oh my god, wow, Cyberpunk 2077. Sorry, something popped up on the screen and it distracted me for a second. All 3 of these games play just fine. Mario Kart World runs at 60 frames per second pretty much at all times. The game plays fine. Sure, the intermission tracks are not particularly great in my opinion, but overall, I'm having fun in the free roam. I am doing the Grand Prix little by little. Once again, I work a pretty hefty work schedule, so I don't have hours upon hours to dump into games, but I do like to dump a little bit into the over the weekend myself, and I've been having a great time with that. I've been having a fun time at Mario Kart World. I had a decent time with Street Fighter 6. I'm going to be real here. This is something I never really did my research on because I didn't realize that the single player mode for this ran at a completely different spec rate than the actual like arcade and other fighting modes in the game. So when I first bought this game, I had no clue that the World Tour ran at 30 frames per second, but the actual fights and everything else and the rest of the game ran at 60. So other people would say, oh yeah, this game runs at a crisp 60. And I'm like, okay, I actually got bamboozled by this one. But no, for some reason, only the single player, which graphically, in my opinion, is inferior to the other modes, runs at 30. I don't get it. It runs this way on the Xbox as well. And I think it's just a weird decision on Capcom's part for that one. So Street Fighter 6 is a so-so. However, here's the big one I'm going to talk about. It's Cyberpunk 2077. I played this way back on the PS4. I didn't play any of the DLC or stuff they've added over the years. So this felt like going back into a completely new experience for me. Graphically, this game looks far better than when I played it on the PS4. It runs far better, even in the graphical, the graphical mode that makes it look really nice. Yeah, it doesn't hit 60 frames per second in that mode, and I get it. A lot of people are really upset and pissed about that. It doesn't really bother me that much. And I think the quality mode, in my opinion, does not make up enough frame-wise to diminish the quality of the graphics to what it does. So I just keep it on the the mode that gives you the prettier graphics, and it's been fine. I've dumped maybe 20 to 25 hours into that game myself, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I read online how atrocious all these ports are on the Switch 2, and I'm not seeing it. I guess I'm missing something here because I've been having a great time with these games, and that's really all I have to say about the games. Something else I want to talk about now is the future of the system. By the time this video comes out, I'm not sure if Donkey Kong is going to be available yet, but I'm sure you can see what this is leading into. I think this system has a fantastic future. I think Nintendo will have a direct relatively soon, if by the time the video doesn't come out already, and showcase some really good stuff. There's a lot of rumored games coming out, and let's be real, even if every rumor was proven false, Nintendo still has a great lineup of first-party titles that we know will get sequels and new games on the system. It's going to be good. I really have a good feeling about the system. Donkey Kong, for instance, comes out hilariously enough on my anniversary with my girlfriend this year. It's going to be a really fun game. We're going to be grabbing that and we're going to play it together as well. I think that looks really fun. I'm really looking forward to the next Legend of Zelda game, the next Animal Crossing game. There's plenty of good stuff that's going to come to this system, in my opinion. It is, unfortunately, in its current state, a little lackluster, but I'm actually going to counter my own point here and say that a lot of the times when systems come out, the launch lineup is never particularly exciting. There's always going to be always leaves you with a huge craving for what's to come. And I think the Switch 2 is going to have a lot of big hitters coming. And that's my opinion on that. Now, something I left out of that big hitters coming is because that's going to lead into my final point for why I'm talking about the system, and that is Pokemon on the system. This is a Pokemon channel after all. We're just diverging into this for this video. I think ZA is going to be a fantastic game. I think Gen 10 is going to be awesome on the system. We've already seen that the system runs games far better. Legends ZA, I think, is going to propel Pokemon into a completely different direction than what we've seen over the years. I personally believe that this is the way that most single-player only experience type Pokemon games will be, where they will diverge off from the traditional turn-based battle system, and that will be left to games like Pokemon Champion, and here and there, a remake, I'm assuming, or hoping for at least. Waiting for those Gen 5 ones. I mean, we're getting a lot of Gen 5 love in the TCG, and there is no remake to be announced yet. Hopefully by the time this comes out, if that Direct comes out, we'll get that. But I think ZA looks really, really good. And the best part is, even if you don't own a Switch 2, you can play it on the Switch 1. Yeah, it's going to look a little worse and it's going to run worse, but I guess that's the trade-off for not buying the Switch 2. I'm sorry, it's just something you'll have to deal with. Talking about Scarlet and Violet, what an absolute upgrade for the system. I have been talking for years and years about how I personally believed Scarlet and Violet 1 was either such an unoptimized mess that the Game Freak just didn't care when they made it, or B, this game was developed with some type of far more advanced tech in mind. And I'm really going to say that these updates support my theory on that second part, because I still fully believe to this day that Scarlet and Violet Gen 9 were not meant to be Switch 1 games, or if they were meant to come out dual Switch 1 and 2, and they were held back. They were released early because Nintendo needed a big game for that holiday. But yeah, seeing how Scarlet and Violet run on the Switch 2, it is actually a night and day comparison. It has a flush 60 frames per second at all times. Graphically, there is far less pop-in. The game as a whole looks much sharper and much better. It is the improvement we've been waiting for, and I think it is completely worth a try. Legends Arceus runs a lot better on the Switch 2, despite there being no official upgrade for the actual game itself. But the Switch 2 actually helps out a lot with that dynamic resolution, keeping it ran at 1080p at all times. I know that sounds really lame, but listen, it was a Switch 1 game, and you knew what you were getting into when you bought it, and that's about it. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee also runs far better. There were very little to few hiccups in these games to begin with, and they just look much sharper and better now with zero hiccups at all. It is really, really cool to see that the backwards compatibility for this system is as good as it is, because a lot of the times when this happens, tons of games are left behind in the dust and are unplayable on the sequel system. But here we had Nintendo actually put a lot of care into making sure that these games ran on the sequel system, and I think that is really cool. You can call me a Nintendo shill, Pokemon shill, whatever you want. I don't give a shit. I personally think that this system is a solid 8 out of 10 system in its current state, and that is purely based, in my opinion, off of the future potential of this system. I think that the Switch 2 is going to have a very long and prosperous life. It's going to have a lot of really great exclusives and also a lot of really great third-party titles as well. The only thing I do fear here, and this I think is a genuine thing to talk about, is that I feel like about maybe 4 or so years into the console's life, we're going to start seeing kind of like what happened with the Switch 1, where it is very far behind technologically. Therefore, it won't really get those great third-party games anymore, and any ports we get to the system will be just so shoddy because the developer does not want to develop for older hardware anymore. that we might have another Switch 1 situation on our hands where ports are so unbelievably bad. It's crazy. The other thing I want to talk about as well before we wrap our video up here today is I think that any and all Switch 1 games, developers now really should be getting that fire lit under their ass to put patches out for them to fix performance issues so they run better on the Switch 2. There are some games that were locked to lower frame rates, etc., had worse graphics being they got ported to the Switch 1. I think that a lot of games could heavily benefit from a patch that brings them up to speed when the games are played on the Switch 2. There's a lot of cozy games that should run at a full 60 frames per second that don't because of the Switch 1's hardware. A simple patch could fix that on the Switch 2 because graphically a lot of those games are not over the top anyway. They were just being held back by the system's past hardware, and I think it is time for an upgrade, and they all deserve it. Would I recommend you buying a Switch 2? Hell yeah, I would. It's a great system. We've had a great time with it here, and I think honestly you and your family will as well. Now, again, I get that this system will not be for everybody. That's going to be any system really, but the Switch 2 is a lot of fun. The Switch 1 was a lot of fun, and the Switch 2 is also a lot of fun as well. And I think the future of this system is going to be great. There's a lot of potential, and we are going to see a lot of really, really nice stuff come out for this thing. With that, I'm going to cut the video here, guys. I really, really appreciate you checking this out. Again, I wanted to kind of give a real perspective on this. I didn't want to give like the flashing lights behind me, 100 LEDs with 4,000 retro games with some guy in a baseball cap telling you how shit the system is because he doesn't like the color of the Joy-Cons or some stupid shit. I feel like that like a lot of reviews are clouded with garbage like that are meant to divert you towards a negative opinion that they're going to eventually have. And I just wanted to throw something a little more real your way. Anyway, in the comment section down below, tell me what you think about the Switch 2, and if you have one, if you're planning to buy one, that would be cool too. Actually, any opinion you have on it, even if it's negative, I want to hear it down below. That's cool. Thank you for checking me out today. I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. So peace out, and thanks for the support.